My name is Adrian Cole. I'm 38 years old, and last month, I found out my parents erased me from their will, left every dollar, every brick of the house I saved 3 times, to my brother, Tyler. This morning, my phone lit up with 16 words from my mother. The mortgage is due. Can you send what you usually do? I stared at the screen, then typed 7. Letter. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by your own family. Because what happened next isn't just about money, it's about control, loyalty, and the moment you finally realize blood doesn't always mean love. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. The day everything began looked harmless. One of those bright Saturdays that tricks you into thinking life is ordinary. I remember the sunlight bleeding through my parents' lace curtains, the smell of lemon polish and rose water hanging thick in the air. I'd driven 40 minutes from the city, laptop on the passenger seat, to help them digitize old paperwork. Mom had called earlier in the week, her voice soft and helpless the way it always got when she wanted something. Adrian, sweetheart, your dad and I are drowning in these documents, she'd sighed. You're so good with computers. Could you come by and scan everything? We'll never figure out those machines. It sounded like a request, but in my family, requests were never optional, they were obligations wrapped in guilt. Dad met me at the door, clapping me on the shoulder like I was a visiting technician. About time. I set up the boxes for you in the dining room. We'd be lost without you, son. That was his brand of affection, transactional gratitude. The dining table was buried under cardboard boxes marked taxes, mortgages, insurance. I powered up my laptop, set the portable scanner, and started feeding page after page through. The rhythm was almost meditative: scan, click, save. For a while, it felt good. Like order could fix chaos. Tyler wasn't there, of course. He was working on new music, which usually meant sleeping till noon at a friend's apartment. Dad shrugged when I asked. He's an artist. Adrian. You know how creative types are. Yeah, I knew. Creative types live off other people's paychecks. Around the third box, I found it: thicker paper, embossed cover, estate plan, final copy. Something about the title made my chest tighten. I wasn't snooping. Mom had told me to scan everything. Still, I hesitated before opening it. The legal language was dense, but my eyes found what mattered fast. Article 4, Disposition of Residuary Estate. I read once, twice, a third time, because my brain refused to compute. I give, devise, and bequeath all remaining assets, property, and investments to my son, Tyler Cole. Nothing for me. Not a percentage. Not a clause. Just one closing sentence on the second to last page. We trust both our sons, Adrian and Tyler, to care for one another after we are gone. That was my inheritance, a moral obligation disguised as love. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. My jaw ached from clenching. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked too loud, each second sounding like an insult. I flipped through the rest of the pages, desperate for an addendum, an oversight, anything. That's when I saw it. Near the back, wedged between notarized pages, was a faint photocopy stamped, "Disclaimer of Interest." My name, my supposed signature. Blurry but unmistakably mine, or close enough. Except I'd never signed it. A cold weight sank in my gut. But I slid the document aside, convincing myself it was nothing. Maybe a placeholder. Maybe a lawyer's template. I didn't know yet that piece of paper would later detonate my entire family's facade. When I carried the folder into the living room, Dad was in his recliner watching golf. "Find everything okay?" he asked without looking away from the TV. I held up the file. "You want to tell me what this is?" His eyes flicked toward the binder, then back to the screen. "The estate plan. We just finished it with Hathaway and Briggs. Routine stuff." "Routine?" I said, voice tight. "Because it looks like you left me out completely." He muted the TV with a sigh, as if I'd interrupted something important. "You're doing well for yourself, Adrian. You've always been steady. Tyler hasn't had your luck. We needed to make sure he's secure." "Secure?" My laugh was sharp. "Dad, I've paid your mortgage 3 times. I covered your property taxes last year. Whose security are we talking about?" He didn't answer. Didn't look at me either. Just stared at some invisible point past my shoulder. When Mom came in with iced tea, she instantly sensed the tension. "What's going on?" I held up the folder. "You tell me." She sat beside me, eyes big and wet. her tone soothing like she was talking to a child. It's not that we don't love you, honey. You've always been strong, capable. Tyler, he's fragile. Fragile. That word burned. Tyler was 34, living rent-free, and still finding himself. And what about me? I said quietly. What do I get for being strong? Her smile wavered. Don't be dramatic. You'll always land on your feet. We had to make sure your brother would be taken care of. That's all. That was all. I left soon after. The drive home felt longer than usual, headlights smearing against the windshield. My chest buzzed with disbelief and fury. At every red light, I replayed Dad's calm rationalization, "You've always done well for yourself." By the time I reached my apartment, the anger had hardened into resolve. I sat in my home office, dim light, screens casting a cold glow, and opened my banking app. For 12 years, on the first of every month, $1,200 had automatically transferred from my account to theirs, a digital umbilical cord I'd never cut. I found the standing order. Edit cancel series. A small pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this transfer? Yes. Then I opened my task list. Deleted. Order Dad's medication. Call Mom Sunday. Pay utility for house. One by one. Gone. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was something sharper, freedom with an edge. I didn't know it then, but that moment was the first crack in a wall that had stood my entire life. And once it started to crumble, there was no stopping what came next. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that line on the will, all remaining assets to Tyler Cole. It looped in my head like a bad song. At 3 a.m., I got out of bed, sat by the window, and watched the city breathe. Below, headlights moved like veins of light. Somewhere in that maze were families that actually meant it when they said, "We love you." Mine loved me like a utility company loves a paying customer, only when the bill's on time. Morning came gray and heavy. I brewed coffee I didn't taste and scrolled through old messages from Mom. Every thread was the same rhythm. A greeting, a small talk cushion, then a request. Can you check the car insurance? Could you cover this month's gas bill? Never a real conversation, just transactions wearing family masks. That Saturday became a slideshow of memories I didn't want. The moments that used to feel warm now looked staged. I remembered a Thanksgiving when Dad gave a toast talking about family sticking together. 10 minutes later, he handed Tyler an envelope with cash for pursuing his passion and told me to be proud of my brother's courage. My courage, apparently, was boring because it paid bills. I remembered the promotion I'd turned down in Chicago 5 years ago. My boss had been ecstatic when he called. "Adrian, you're my guy. 6 figures. VP title. Relocation package. You'd be leading the new division." That night, Mom called crying. "Chicago? That's so far, sweetheart. What will we do if something happens to your dad?" I'd said, "I can visit," but she'd sighed. "Visits aren't the same." I told my boss I couldn't go. Family needed me. He'd paused, disappointed but understanding. I convinced myself it was the right choice. Now, I knew what that choice had cost me. A future traded for their convenience. The memories lined up like exhibits in a courtroom, each one proving the same verdict: I'd been useful, not loved. By Monday, the disbelief was gone. In its place was something colder. I wanted distance. I wanted silence. I wanted to see how long it would take before they noticed that the safety net they'd been walking on was gone. Days passed. Then a week. Nothing. No. Thank you. No. Are you okay? They didn't even notice the missing payment. I should have expected that they'd built their world on the assumption that I'd never stop catching them. Then, a ping. A text from Mom. "Water bill came in higher this month. The portal's so confusing. Can you check?" It was the gentlest leash imaginable. I stared at it, thumb hovering, feeling that old reflex to fix things. Then I deleted the whole thread. 3 days later, "Dad, cable's out. Did you pay the bill?" That one made me laugh, sharp, bitter. I typed, "Call customer service," then deleted it before sending. Silence was louder. But silence didn't last. They escalated. The social posts started small. Mom uploaded a photo of a sunset with the caption, "You give your children everything, but sometimes even that isn't enough to teach them gratitude." Hundreds of likes. Comments full of sympathy. "Stay strong, Diane. Kids these days." Dad shared an article titled, "The Epidemic of Ungrateful Adult Children." His caption, Hard lesson learned. Then Tyler. Always the performer. He posted our last family Christmas photo, except he'd cropped me out. The space where I'd stood beside Mom was now just blank porch siding. His caption, "Real family shows up when things are hard." I watched from the sidelines. My name erased as neatly online as it had been in the will. Aunt Lorraine called next. "Adrian, honey, I'm not taking sides, but your mother's heartbroken. She says you've cut her off completely. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Did she also tell you why she rewrote the will?" Pause. "She mentioned you're doing better financially. That you don't need." "Need?" I interrupted, voice flat. "I paid their mortgage for 15 years. I think we're past need." She clucked her tongue. "Family isn't about money." "Then why is money all they talk about?" She hung up before answering. 2 nights later, an email arrived from my father's account. A payment request from their bank for $3,200 the mortgage, plus late fee. No greeting, just a digital invoice. I declined it, typed one word in the comment box, "No." It was almost funny how quickly guilt morphed into rage on their side. Messages poured in. From Mom, "We could lose the house, Adrian. Your childhood home. Is that what you want?" From Dad, "You'd really let your parents be homeless? All because you're jealous of your brother?" From Tyler, "Stop being dramatic, man. Just help them like you always do." I ignored every single one. Instead, I opened a new folder on my desktop labeled Receipts, screenshots of texts, PDFs of transfers, photos of repair invoices I'd paid. I wasn't just collecting proof. I was building armor. That week, the final piece clicked into place. I was at a bar with Nate, my closest friend, the only person who'd seen the unfiltered mess. I showed him the social posts, the cropped photo. He slammed his beer down. "Dude, that's narcissistic abuse 101. They rewrite the story so they're the victims." "I know," I said, "but it still hurts. Seeing people I grew up with believe their lies." Nate leaned in. "Then stop playing defense. Hold your line. They'll push until it costs them something." He was right. A few nights later, I got a call from Frank Dorsey, Dad's old friend. His voice was low and gravelly. "Adrian, I just got off the phone with your father. What the hell's going on? He sounds wrecked." "Depends who you ask," I said. "Look, I'm not picking sides," Frank said, which of course meant he was. "Your folks just took a big hit helping Tyler with that studio loan. 42 grand down the drain. You can't blame them for wanting to protect him." My pulse froze. 42,000? "Yeah," he said casually. "Big risk. Didn't pan out. Anyway, don't be too hard on them." He had no idea he'd just handed me the missing puzzle piece. Mom had told me it was a few thousand, not 42.5. That night, I pulled the will back up on my computer, scrolled to the notarization date 6 weeks ago. The same week I'd paid their overdue property taxes to lift the lien. The ink wasn't even dry when they signed me away. That's when clarity hit, not like lightning, but like ice. They hadn't just replaced me, they'd leveraged me. Used my stability to finance Tyler's failure, and then rewrote the family script to make it look noble. The next morning, I sat at my desk with my coffee growing cold and drafted an email not to them, but to the law firm Hathaway and Briggs. "Dear Counsel, please confirm whether a disclaimer of interest bearing my name was executed or delivered by me in relation to the Cole estate plan. If so, kindly provide the date, IP submission log, and custody chain of said document." I didn't send it yet. I wanted to. But a better idea was forming. I'd wait. Let them come to me. Let them make the mistake of showing up where they thought I couldn't say no. They didn't disappoint. 2 weeks later, my phone rang at work. The front desk, Kendra's voice trembling. "Adrian, your family is here. They're insisting on seeing you." A slow, almost relieved breath escaped me. It was time. I straightened my tie, saved the email draft into my receipts folder, and said, "Tell them I'll be down in 5 minutes." As I stood up, I caught my reflection in the glass wall suit. Tired eyes, but something new behind them. Not fear, not guilt, just readiness. I didn't know it yet, but that confrontation would change everything, not just for them, but for me. And for the first time in 38 years, I was completely, terrifyingly free. The next few days after Kendra's phone call felt like a countdown to detonation. I could sense it, the air around me getting heavier, the way the sky feels before a summer storm. They hadn't just crossed a boundary. They were about to stage a siege. And they began, as always, with guilt disguised as conversation. The first text came that Tuesday morning. Water bill came in higher this month. Portal's confusing. Can you check? The tone was sweet, casual, like nothing had ever happened. I could almost hear Mom's syrupy voice behind it, that half-pleading lilt she used when she wanted to slip a leash back around my neck. I didn't respond. I just deleted it. By Wednesday, Dad chimed in. Cable's out. Did you forget to pay? No question mark. Just assumption, like it was still my responsibility. I stared at the message for a long moment before archiving the thread. Silence was my new language, and I was fluent now. For 3 days, nothing. Then Saturday morning, the bomb dropped. A bank notification pinged my phone, a payment request from my parents' joint account. $3,200. Labeled, mortgage urge. Attached was a short note from Dad. Don't let the house slip because of your pride. My thumb hovered over the options. Accept. Decline. I hit decline and typed one word in the reason box. No. If they wanted a war. This was my declaration. An hour later, Mom's text popped up. We could lose the house, Adrian. Your childhood home. Is that really what you want? I stared at her message, imagining her sitting there on that same floral couch, clutching her phone with tearful precision, ready to screenshot my replies for her next pity post. No reply. But my silence only made them louder. By evening, I saw the ripple effect online. Mom posted a photo of the house, golden hour sunlight spilling over the porch swing I'd replaced years ago. Her caption, "You give everything you have to your children. Your love, your time, your heart. Sometimes it still isn't enough to teach gratitude." It got 187 likes in 2 hours. Comments flooded in. You're a saint, Diane. Some kids forget who raised them. Praying for your family. Dad shared an article titled, When Children Abandon Their Aging Parents. His caption, we thought we raised them right. And then Tyler, always eager for a stage, posted the edited Christmas photo again. The same one from last year. Only this time he'd added text overlay. Family isn't blood, it's loyalty. That was the moment it stopped being private. My name wasn't in their posts, but it didn't need to be. Everyone who mattered could read between the lines. My phone started buzzing with messages from cousins, old family friends, even my godmother. Are you okay? Your mom sounds devastated. I wanted to scream. Instead, I did what I do best. Documented. Screenshots. Timestamps. Every manipulative breadcrumb filed neatly into my receipts folder. Then came the concern calls. Aunt Lorraine was first, as expected. Adrian, sweetheart, what's going on? Your mother hasn't slept in days. She slept fine while rewriting me out of her will. I said, now, that's not fair, she scolded. She only did what any parent would. Tyler needs more help. And I guess the one paying everyone's bills doesn't need anything, right? Her voice turned sharp. Money isn't everything. No, I said quietly. But it's funny how I only mattered when I was the one earning it. Click. End of call. Next came Frank Dorsey, Dad's old buddy, the one who liked to preach about loyalty. His voice rasped through the receiver. I just spoke with your father. He's torn up, son. Says you've lost perspective. After all they've done for you. I laughed, an actual, humorless laugh. After all they've done for me? Frank, you know they used me as a human credit line, right? As all resays availed and my Jekyll. He hesitated. They were trying to help Tyler. That studio was supposed to be his big break. Cost them, what, 42,000? My heart stopped. Say that again? 42.5, I think. He muttered, like it was pocket change. Anyway, I just hope you'll find it in your heart too. I hung up before he could finish. That was it, the number Mom had hidden behind a sweet shrug. She'd called it a little loan. Turns out it was a down payment on Betrayal. I opened the scanned will again on my computer. The signature date glared at me. 6 weeks ago. The same week I'd bailed them out of their tax lien. The ink had dried on the check before their lawyer notarized my erasure. I sat back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, counting my breaths. 1, 2, 3, cold clarity sliding into place. They hadn't simply chosen Tyler. They'd leveraged me, liquidated my loyalty, and then rebranded it as good parenting. And the best part? They believed they could still shame me into fixing their mistake. They didn't realize the version of me they'd known was gone. By Sunday morning, the silence in my apartment felt electric, like the air before lightning strikes. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and drafted a letter not to them, but to the firm Hathaway and Briggs. Please verify whether any document titled Disclaimer of Interest was executed by me in relation to the coal estate plan. If so, provide the IP log and digital custody record. I saved it in my receipts folder but didn't send it. Not yet. Because some battles aren't fought online or through texts. They're fought face-to-face on your opponent's stage, under their own spotlight. And I knew exactly where that stage would be. The next week unfolded like a slow-motion implosion, each day another crack, another echo of something breaking that could never be fixed again. Wednesday morning, an email from Dad arrived at my office inbox. Not my personal one, my work email. Subject line, Urgent Mortgage. He'd CC'd Mom, and, for reasons only he would find logical, my department's general mailbox. The body was short. Adrian, we need that payment today. Don't embarrass us by ignoring your family's responsibilities. He signed it Martin Cole, homeowner. No dad. No warmth. Just a title and an invoice. I deleted it without replying, but my hands trembled for a full minute afterward. Not with fear rage. The quiet kind that burns slow and steady. The kind that doesn't fade. By noon, the company's internal chat pinged. Hey, man, everything okay? Saw some weird Facebook stuff about your folks. My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook. Mom had gone nuclear. She'd posted a long paragraph on her timeline. After everything we've sacrificed, it's heartbreaking when your own child turns his back on you. We're not perfect, but we raised him with love. Please pray for our family. A blurry photo of our house sat beneath the post, captioned, Home should mean something. Thousands of words worth of manipulation packed into a few lines. The comments were a funeral for my reputation. Some people forget where they come from. You deserve better, Diane. You'll always have us. Dad added a comment. We never asked for much, just respect. Tyler shared the post with the caption, Imagine choosing money over family. My blood turned to ice. They weren't just rewriting the narrative, they were weaponizing it. I spent that night gathering evidence. Screenshots. Timestamps. I saved every post, every comment, every digital smear. Then I locked my phone and sat in the dark. The room hummed with the sound of the refrigerator, the city murmuring outside. I remembered what Nate had told me once over beers. You can't argue with people committed to misunderstanding you. He was right, but you can make them choke on their own story. Thursday, around 5 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a notification from my bank. A new transfer attempt, same amount, $3,200 originating from their account. This time marked automatic request. They'd set up recurring requests. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I opened the banking app, found the authorization settings, and hit block account. Then, for good measure, I called customer service. The woman on the line asked if I wanted to permanently restrict transactions from that source. Yes, I said. Make it permanent. When I hung up, I realized my heart wasn't pounding anymore. It was steady, controlled. That night, I opened my folder one last time, checked the email draft to Hathaway and Briggs, and hovered over send. I didn't click it. Not yet. There was still one more act left, the confrontation, because some truths deserve to be said out loud. Friday morning came too calm. I got to the office early, the marble lobby echoing beneath my shoes. The place always smelled of espresso and ambition. I was sipping my coffee at my desk when Kendra, the front desk receptionist, appeared in my doorway, eyes wide, voice thin. Adrian, your family's here. They said it's urgent. For a moment, the world went quiet. Then everything sharpened, sounds, colors, the pulse in my temples. Where are they? Lobby. I nodded, grabbed my blazer, and took the elevator down. The descent felt eternal. My reflection in the mirrored wall stared back, jaw set, eyes calm. When the doors slid open, I saw them immediately. Mom, Dad, and Tyler, standing in a triangle near the glass doors. Tyler in a denim jacket, arms folded like a bad imitation of confidence. Dad holding a manila folder, probably the will itself, like it was proof of righteousness. Mom clutched her purse to her chest, trembling just enough to look saintly. The lobby was full of people, employees on lunch break, a few executives waiting for rides. The perfect audience. Mom took a step forward. Adrian, we didn't want to do this here, but you're ignoring our calls. I said nothing. Dad's voice cut in, cold. You've embarrassed this family long enough. You're still our son, but this behavior. I raised a hand, quiet but final. You came to my workplace. That was your first mistake. They blinked, startled. I looked at Mom. You want to talk about family? Let's talk about that disclaimer of interest you forged my name on. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Tyler's smirk faltered. Dad's jaw tightened. Don't start this nonsense. I stepped closer, keeping my tone even. It's not nonsense if Hathaway and Briggs can confirm the upload came from your IP address 6 weeks ago, the same week I paid your property tax lien. Silence. You could hear the elevator ding in the background. I've got every transfer, every receipt, every single payment I ever made to keep your house standing. I said, voice steady, not loud. So before you post another Facebook sermon about betrayal, maybe look in a mirror. Evelyn Whitaker, our CEO, had just walked out of an adjacent hallway. She stopped, listening. Her eyes flicked from them to me. Mom whispered, Adrian, please don't do this here. I smiled faintly. You already did. Dad took a step forward, folders shaking slightly. You think you're better than us? No, I said softly. Just done. The weight of those two words hung in the air. Tyler looked away first. Mom's lip quivered. Evelyn finally spoke, her voice clear as glass. Mr. Cole, she said to me, character noted. Then she turned and walked off. The sentence wasn't loud, but it carried like a verdict. My parents stood frozen, caught between pride and panic. I didn't move until they turned and walked out the door. When the glass closed behind them, I exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. The war was over, but the fallout hadn't even begun. The lobby felt unnaturally quiet after they left, like sound itself was holding its breath. People were still pretending not to look, pretending their emails were suddenly urgent, but I could feel their eyes on my back as I stood there, motionless. My pulse slowed, heavy and deliberate, each beat pounding like a gavel. For a long moment, I just stared at the glass doors where my parents had disappeared. The reflection staring back wasn't the man they remembered, the dutiful son, the reliable fixer. He was gone. What stood there now was someone sharper, stripped down to truth and bone. But the silence didn't last. The doors slid open again. Tyler came storming back in, his face flushed, jaw tight, fury written all over him. The security guard half rose from his desk, but I lifted a hand. It's fine. Tyler stopped 3 feet from me. You humiliated them, he hissed. In public. At your job. What's wrong with you? I tilted my head. You mean I told the truth? Truth? He laughed, bitter. You think you're some kind of hero? You've always acted like you're better than us. But you're not. You're just lonely. Pathetic. The guy with no one to come home to. The words were designed to cut. Once, they would have. Not anymore. You're right, I said quietly. I don't have anyone to come home to, but at least I can afford to pay for my own home. His jaw twitched. He stepped closer. They're gonna lose everything because of you. No, I said, my tone flat and final. They're losing everything because of you. Because they bet on your dream and mortgaged their integrity to pay for it. I could see the flicker of shame, brief but real, before it turned back into anger. You think anyone cares about your little spreadsheet of receipts? You're just bitter. You didn't get what you wanted. What I wanted, I said, was respect. Turns out that costs more than $42,500. That number landed like a slap. His mouth fell open, eyes darting toward the glass doors where our parents had vanished. He hadn't known the exact figure, of course he hadn't. Mom had lied to him too. Frank Dorsey told me, I added, voice low. Next time you want to build a studio, maybe use your own money. He started to say something, but I took a step forward, close enough that he had to look me in the eye. You've spent your whole life hiding behind Mom's pity and Dad's excuses. But here's the thing about safety nets, they're not supposed to last forever. You're 34, Tyler. It's time to learn what falling feels like. He flinched. The security guard shifted again, ready to intervene. But Tyler just shook his head and backed away, muttering under his breath. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but I'll regret it on my own terms. He turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass trembled. The moment he was gone, I let out a long, shaky breath. The adrenaline drained out of me, leaving only exhaustion and a strange, hollow peace. Kendra, the receptionist, approached carefully, like someone nearing a wounded animal. You okay, Mr. Cole? I nodded. Yeah, just cleaning house. Her sympathetic smile was small but real. For what it's worth, she said softly. Everyone saw who was yelling and who wasn't. That meant more than I expected. When I finally got back to my office, Evelyn Whitaker was waiting by my door. She didn't say much, she never needed to. She just looked at me for a long moment, assessing, then said, "Walk with me." We crossed the quiet hallway toward her corner office. She closed the door behind us and gestured for me to sit. "I don't need the details," she said, "but I saw how you handled yourself. Calm, factual, professional. Not everyone can keep their composure under that kind of personal pressure." I swallowed. "Thank you, ma'am." She leaned back, studying me. "You ever think about that VP position in Chicago?" My breath caught. "I used to." "Well," she said, "it's opening again. And I think we both know who deserves it this time." For a second, I couldn't speak. All I managed was, "Yes, I'd like to be considered." Evelyn smiled small, approving. "Character noted," she said again, echoing her words from the lobby. "Go home. Take a few days. When you're ready, we'll talk relocation." I walked out of her office in a daze. The marble floor reflected the overhead lights, gleaming like clean slate. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground, not because someone else held it steady, but because I'd finally stopped carrying everyone else's weight. As I reached my car in the underground lot, my phone buzzed 7 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Dad, and 1 voicemail from Tyler. I didn't listen. I just scrolled to Do Not Disturb and toggled it on. When the elevator doors closed behind me, I caught my reflection once more. Same face, same eyes. But the man staring back had something new behind them, resolve. That was the moment I realized the war wasn't about money, or wills, or property. It was about identity, about saying no and meaning it, about finally choosing myself. As I drove home through the city lights, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: freedom. Not the loud, reckless kind, but quiet freedom. The kind that lives in your chest, deep and steady. The kind you earn when you stop being afraid of who you'll disappoint. That night, I poured a drink, opened my laptop, and hit send on the email to Hathaway and Briggs. One sentence at the bottom read, "Please copy my counsel on all responses." It wasn't revenge, it was accountability. And for the first time in my life, I slept without waiting for the phone to buzz. The following week moved in strange, slow motion, like life itself was catching its breath after the explosion. The calls stopped first, then the texts. Even the Facebook pity parade went silent. It wasn't peace, it was fallout. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived at my door from Hathaway and Briggs. Inside were 2 pages, one bland letter confirming receipt of my inquiry, and one line that made my pulse still. "No executed. Disclaimer, of interest bearing. Your verified signature exists in our records." However, a scanned submission was uploaded from a residential IP address registered to Martin and Diane Cole on June 3rd. The same day I'd paid their property taxes. I stared at the line until the words blurred. There it was, the truth. Not loud, not dramatic, just printed in black and white. Proof that their mistake had never been one. I didn't send it to them. Not yet. I slipped the letter into a clear folder labeled Receipts, placed it in my desk drawer, and locked it. Some things don't need shouting. Sometimes, the quiet truth does the loudest damage. 2 weeks later, Nate slid a real estate listing across our bar table. "You've seen this." I looked down. My parents' house. The headline, "For sale, estate property, motivated sellers." I read the fine print. "Pending title verification, existing lien under review." I almost laughed. The old HELOC I'd helped them restructure years ago, the one they'd hidden in the refinancing. It had resurfaced. Buyers were spooked. The sale was stuck. Nate smirked. "Karma's got a funny sense of timing." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The silence said everything. A month later, the letter from Aunt May arrived, no return address. Just neat cursive handwriting. Inside was a small brass key taped to a folded note. "This belonged to your grandmother's safety deposit box. Inside, you'll find letters. They'll tell you this pattern didn't start with you. Your mother once borrowed her sister's inheritance and never paid it back. I thought you should know. May. I sat there, the key glinting in my hand, the city lights flickering through my window. A legacy of manipulation passed from mother to daughter, now crumbling under its own weight. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt free. They thought they'd written me out of the story, but all they'd really done was hand me the pen. And I wasn't finished writing yet. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, hit subscribe and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes walking away isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Sometimes saying no is the most honest kind of love there is. Because family isn't who shares your last name, it's who shows up when everything falls apart. My name is Adrian Cole, and this story isn't over. The truth always finds its way home. Stay tuned, because the next chapter might just prove that closure isn't given. It's taken.